Welcome back to segment 2, and we're going to be talking about liars and lying. But before we get to the liars and the lying, I want to give a shout out to Clever Cheetah. He found me on X at Prof Penn Podcast. I'm going to ask you to find me if you are so willing. And he posted up something that was fantastic. Anyone who owns an RV knows to replace their China bombs immediately. They are called that for a reason. And I'm going to tell you, Clever Cheetah, you are absolutely correct. An RV is a very tough wheel position. But it's not just China that is exporting tires to the United States. The Continentals are imported. The Michelins are imported. The Goodyears are imported. The Coopers are imported. The Toyos, all of them. Only 25% of the tires we're using are made here. So this is about more, and why President Trump is looking to spread these reciprocal tariffs out over all of our trading partners is all of our partners have had access to our market, unfettered access. The average tax collected for most of my career was, guess what? 2.5%. And now, just with this increase to 10% and the 25% tax that's been put on certain sectors like automobiles, tariff collections are at all-time highs, and it's actually reducing the deficit. It's already working. I look online, these pundits are saying this is stupid, it's a failure. Oh, man, these people don't know anything about this game. I've been playing it my whole life. This is a brilliant move. It's brilliant in the extreme. It gives President Trump an alternative form of taxation, which we desperately need to address this $37 trillion debt. We could have had a VAT tax. We could have had higher income taxes. We could have had a national sales tax. But the tariffs give President Trump the ability to negotiate and the ability to encourage the onshoring of domestic production. This is very, very good. And we just need to give it a little time. A little time. When you're trying to change, when President Trump and a very small number of people who are actually with him are trying to change an 80-year paradigm called the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, which stands on one world government and free trade. That's its cornerstone. You're trying to change that? That's a big system. It takes time. It takes courage. It takes we the people to get involved, get in the game. Do you know President Trump has very little support from his own Republican caucus? They hide it. But if you're in a state like South Carolina with Lindsey Graham, or Texas like John Cornyn, or here in Minnesota where I live, I know that we got a lot of people wearing red MAGA hats because it's a good disguise for their globalist ambitions. And why do I know? Because they're liars. Let's listen to a clip and you can see how far these people are willing to go.
Start your tape right now because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
She knows so long as she was 9.
In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
President Biden has a photographic memory. His understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation is remarkable.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
I was sitting, 2 feet from him across the table, and he was, intense.
Have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. He wanted GD war.
But he's totally focused. He's very sharp.
They say he's sharp in meetings and so on.
Very lucid, very well informed.
Biden is stately, and he comes with gravitas.
There hasn't been, as far as I know, a single claim that Biden made a mistake.
Ageism is an issue. Americans have a rich history of holding people's physical characteristics against them. Okay, you can ask African Americans.
He's older. that doesn't mean that he is unfit, and there's a lot of ageism there.
Now, this age attack, this obsession by the right.
Joe Biden may not be able to speak for himself the way that he used to.
They want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, and that's him lying around.
I think people should be speaking up for Joe Biden.
Americans and reporters in the media are just judging him by a physical appearance, and it's horribly unfair. Age is an asset.
He showed exactly how with it he is.
The flip side of this coin is that he has a tremendous amount of wisdom and experience.
Have you heard any concerns from anyone who has met with President Biden about him seeming a little slower?
No.
More wild speculation from a bunch of people who have probably never been in a room with Joe Biden and certainly don't have medical degrees that I'm aware of.
You don't get paid for performance to be president. You don't. The job is not a job of endurance. I don't see Donald Trump out bike riding like Joe Biden.
It's the Hillary's email. All they have is that he's old.
He can clear a dementia bar, and that's probably a win.
The media are not fair, and they're getting less and less fair, and things are frightening. You have Wall Street Journal running a horribly sourced piece saying that Biden is unfit.
Dubious Wall Street Journal report about the president's acuity.
Shoddy story by the Wall Street Journal questioning Biden's mental fitness.
Wall Street Journal story had a lot of flaws, as you said. But Sinclair, they didn't do any original reporting. They didn't follow up. They didn't do any work.
The hero of the day is Hirsch Goldberg Poland, and still, he is not here with us, but he's still being held by Hamas.
But a huge part of the Mueller report talks about Russian disinformation tactics. And one of the themes this election cycle is that Joe Biden is too old to lead. And so everyone is seizing upon this. And it is a classic.
Wow. Wow. I was brought up with a very ancient maxim, thou shalt not lie. Tell the truth. I have to be frank. It took me many years to get that down because I'm a human being, right? I'm flawed. I mean, I'm not trying to put myself special. And I do these podcasts, the Professor Penn podcast twice a week. And, if I'm not precise, even if I exaggerate just a little bit, I feel awful. Because how can anybody come to our cause if the people in our movement lie? And those were all the Democrats. We know they're liars. But guess what? They're professional politicians. And what's on the other side of the football? The exact same people. They call themselves Republicans, but they're lying just as much, just as fiercely, and sometimes even more skillfully. Which brings me to this bill that President Trump calls the big, beautiful bill. If you read the news about it, you can't tell, really, what's true and what's false about this bill. It kind of reminds me of that debt ceiling bill in 2023 that my own CD6 representative, Tom Emmer, touted as the greatest cuts to government spending in American governmental history, and then they ran the debt up another $4 trillion. Thank you, Tom, for your honesty and transparency. Well, in this case, the scoring of this bill from the Congressional Budget Office is suspect. They're claiming that the bill is going to increase the debt and that it's awful and terrible, but actually it cuts spending by $1.6 trillion for real. On the day the bill is enacted, spending is cut. Our taxes are going to go down. And they say it's only going to benefit the billionaires. That's a lie. It's going to benefit everybody. Everybody's going to get a tax cut. There'll be no tax on tips. There'll be no tax on overtime. And will it run up the budget deficit? Will it run up the federal debt? Well, the way the CBO is scoring this bill, the way I read it, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds, we don't have the time, is very suspect to me. Most of the people that work in that office are Democrats. What a surprise. No, I think that this bill has merit, requires consideration. And there's all this opposition, even from the Republican side. Politics right now, today, what you and I are watching, it's theater. These people, they go down into the bar pour themselves a stiff one and they say, hey, tomorrow it's your turn. You run out there and oppose President Trump. And then on the next issue, they get another group of people out there to do it. President Trump is working against our own allegedly Republican representatives. Please join your local Republican Party. You don't have to tell them who you are. You don't have to tell them what you believe. Half the seats in the party are vacant. If you just show up, you're going to become the most important person in American politics, a delegate. Like if you're out in South Carolina and you're listening to me, you know, if you're watching RAV, I know how you feel about Lindsey Graham. You know how you're going to get rid of him? There's only one way. You got to get him in the endorsement process. You got to find an American citizen that is committed to telling the truth. That's what I think we need here in Minnesota. I think that's what you need in your state. How are we going to attract a new constituent if we lie like a rug, like the rest of these people? I am committed, and here at Free People Radio, we are committed to searching for truth. We don't say we know what the truth is because, hey, it's hard to find sometimes. But we're looking for it. We're not out to manipulate people with statistics, you know, lies, damn lies and statistics. No, we're not doing that. We're trying to find the truth. And I'll give you a truth. When President Trump gets these tariffs in place and it ends up being, his words, not mine, $1 trillion a year for 10 years, this budget bill with those tariffs is going to have a great positive effect on our financial condition. And that's what we need to be focused on, we the people. And only when we demand balanced budgets by getting involved in politics will our budgets be balanced. Thank you. This is segment 2. Please stay tuned for these important messages. We'll be right back.